Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Still a pretty nervous time out there. We're getting very close now to the sort of July the 6th, which is when the first of the sort of Trump trade tariffs start to hit the ground. That's around $36 billion against Chinese goods. He's obviously talked about making a further sort of $200 billion. China sort of counter-reacted on that and is looking at placing tariffs on agricultural products, particularly sort of pork, which is really going to hurt the sort of farmers of the Midwest, which is part of Trump's real sort of core power base. So it'll just be very interesting to see how this sort of plays through. But interestingly, coming out of Germany yesterday, there was talk about the German government maybe looking at maybe sort of relaxing some of the tariffs they were looking at placing on US goods. Is this the first sort of maybe move in trying to sort of de-escalate this sort of issue and sort of get people to sort of sitting around the table and negotiating a reasonable sort of deal going forward? Quite ironic because coming out of the US as well, Harley Davidson have had pretty big tariffs put on their motorcycle imports coming into Europe. Costs are going to go up by around sort of 34-35%. And that has prompted the company to maybe come out and say that potentially they're looking at moving some of their production base out of the US just to try and counteract some of these trade tariffs. Quite ironic really, because the whole reason why Trump was talking about putting these trade tariffs on was to protect US jobs and keep jobs in the US. And now here you've got a clear demonstration that potentially one of the the major sort of icon companies in the US, Harley Davidson motorcycles, are looking at moving jobs away from the US. With all sort of toing and froing taking place at the moment, it's interesting to see sort of Trump's approval ratings. Still hovering steadily around that sort of 42%, just slightly a small increase, which is sort of surprising because you've had obviously the whole immigration issue, where 2/3 of the country disagreed with that. Only about 25% agreed with his policy, but 2/3, 66% disagreed with that policy, but yet apparently 42% of the country think he's doing a good job. Which just sort of goes to prove, poll numbers don't really mean a whole lot, and really it's going to be very interesting to see how this sort of plays through. We've only got about 39 days now till the midterms, and at present the Republicans are looking like they may just suffer a few losses out there, and if that's the case, it's going to be very interesting to see how his approval ratings hold up, but also as well looking forward to the 2020 election. Just going to be interesting to see what the Republicans come up with. I suspect at the moment, because certainly the data coming out of the US is still pretty strong, you've got a pretty robust economy, you've got record low unemployment. At the moment the markets are holding a reasonable sort of bid, and most people's sort of pension and 401ks are still showing some pretty reasonable returns. You suspect, though, if the trade war does really sort of take hold and markets get a little bit nervous and some of those investment returns and the sort of pension plans start to fall, then potentially there might be a little bit of a sort of kickback as well in terms of Trump's approval ratings, and they could just take a little bit of a dent on the back of that. Oil as well, a little bit of talk about potential sort of easing of the production sort of caps going forward. Oil at the moment is sort of stuck sort of 65-75 on WTI and probably will remain so for the rest of the year. Brexit quite interesting as well. Still a little bit of movement taking place out there. But what was quite interesting at the weekend, there was a mass demonstration calling for a further vote from the people really on Brexit. As we're getting closer to that sort of May 2019 sort of exit date, reality is starting to hit home. And at present, the outlook is not particularly good for the UK economy, and they're sort of trying to force a potential another vote to see if you can stay in. Now that could be very interesting because certainly quite a few people took to the streets. There was a mass demonstration, and again politicians have to start listening. If you're getting a reasonable sort of public sway of opinion out there. Here in New Zealand, we've got that Genesis retail bond minimum rate has been set at 4.65. If you're interested in that, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz. Here in New Zealand as well, the economy is pushing on at a reasonable rate. It's just going to be very interesting to see, certainly on the dairy side, on this Mycoplasma bovis, to see if they manage to get that under control and indeed try to eradicate that. Obviously, you've still got the government housing plan sort of moving forward. Again, appears to be hitting a few sort of speed humps, and it's just going to be interesting again to see how that sort of plays through. Certainly at the moment, nowhere near on schedule. And also as well on the actual house pricing as well, it's it's affordable housing. Some people would argue that's a little bit out of most people's reach. So still really plenty of work for the government to be doing out there. Again, their approval ratings are holding up reasonably well in the polls, but it's just going to be interesting to see, really once we get through sort of September, October time, would have been in power a year then, and really just trying to see, what policies are actually put into place. Because certainly under a bit of pressure as well, obviously with the nurses, teachers are unhappy about pay, and also some of the government officials as well are talking about industrial action as well. This all adds a little bit of pressure out there at a time when it's really not needed. Also as well, the last few days, just check that those KiwiSaver balances to make sure you're going to get the maximum tax credit. If you're unsure on those numbers, say call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. We look forward to speaking to you soon.